If you want to send a letter to.
This is the Zoning Board of Appeals for March 13th, 2019. We've got three items on our agenda. The first is 173 Ashford, then we have 12 Livingston, and we finish up with 85 Myrtle. So on 173 Ashford, who will be heard on this application? Come on up. If you'd identify yourself, take the microphone so that people at home can hear everything. And this is for a proposed addition that will extend an existing nonconformity, which is set back only 6.4 feet on the west side, and it requires, and as a result, it requires a variance of 3.6 feet. And that's because we, in the village, we require a 10-foot side yard setback. Yeah, could you actually move the mic a little bit more towards you? Or hold it, whichever works for you. Just that the reception on these is not the best.
My name is Edward Butler. I'm the property owner at 173 Ashford Ave. And as we stated, I'm looking to do a variance on the side yard for non-conforming of 8 feet. I'm looking to do, I think the exact thing is 3.6 setback.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the process is for this, what I've ever done. You guys go into more detail with that?
Why don't you just describe the project in a general sense so that the people at home can understand what's going on?
I'm planning on doing a renovation throughout the house. The renovation that I'm requiring the variance for, it was a previous add-on, and I'm trying to put a second floor onto it. The second floor add-on would accommodate a bigger master bedroom and a master bath. And redoing kitchen, adding a powder room on the main floor, adding safer stairs to the attic. Right now, they're kind of a death trap. And
Don't tell the building inspector that, please. Get up there in the morning.
He'll be there at 6 a.m.
bring them up to code. And pretty much put in an HVAC system. So just bringing the house from 1890s and trying to modernize it. I'm not doing anything to the outside. I'm just really doing everything to the inside and trying to keep its character.
Right, and an extension of a nonconformity in this case, which is the left side of the house, it really architecturally keeps the integrity of the house intact, whereas the applicant could build something that conformed but would not be nearly as attractive a structure. Any questions up here?
No, I don't think so.
Anyone from the public? Thank you, Mr. Steinschneider. Okay, I move to close the hearing.
I'll second the closing.
Hey, John, since you traveled the farthest to get here,
Would you like the honor of making a motion?
it really would make it worthwhile.
I make a motion to approve the application as written.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And that's all in agreement. And, you understand, you have to build it exactly as the plans that you've submitted. Okay,
The only other question about that
sure.
is, process-wise, do I have to wait now for formal approval to go to the next step of the planning commission?
No, you go to the next board, the planning board and the architectural review board concurrently. You apply to both those boards, and then we go to permit.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and you should, it's somewhere on the website. You should check the calendar because, there's deadlines that you have to meet. And, if you miss one, then it's another month. And you may be able to squeak in. I just don't know. You should take a look. Okay? Good luck to you. The next item on our agenda is 12 Livingston Avenue. This is a public hearing for plans to convert an existing garage to an office and storage room. And that in effect eliminates a parking space in the garage and leaves only one compliant parking space when two are required, two off-street parking spots are required by the code. Who will be heard on the application? Okay.
What house, presently, I'm working from home remotely, and in our home office, I have one car, I'm owner of one car only, and we repurpose the garage, the inside garage, to be the home office and park storage room. And that results in eliminating one of the parking slots in the house, and I think that's the purpose of the unit.
Have you
So-
explored adding on to the house?
Any, sorry,
Have you explored adding on to the house?
adding to the house,
Yeah.
building a separate office.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, in practicality, this property has two driveway spaces. But one of them is so steep that it couldn't be counted by code. It's over 5%, which doesn't allow us to count it by code for parking.
Yeah, I've driven by this place, I mean, I walk by it almost every day. So, there's always a car parked in front of the garage, I noticed. Is that the one that's too steep, or the
Yes.
one, that
That's
one's
correct. The
more
one to the
steep
right up
and the one
further
to the right of it
is compliant.
is compliant? Yeah, so you have, so in terms of, the depth of the parking space that's in front of the parking lot, that's not the issue, it's just too steep.
I believe he has enough off-road on the private lot.
Mhm.
It's just too steep.
Right. So, yeah, I mean,
He must if he was compliant before.
yeah.
You know, and the driveway is long enough.
He has this, you know, this is the new office and the new storage room, that is your whole garage, right?
Exactly.
Right now, okay, so you're just gonna divide this and close this. So this is one space, and then the other space is here, but someone's almost always parked here, but it's so steep that it doesn't count technically as a
Although he's
parking.
getting up that steep incline to get
Yeah,
into the garage.
to get into the garage,
And he's
but
not blocking the sidewalk when he's parking in
No.
front of the garage?
No,
No, it almost looks like he's got almost another car length behind.
There's
Yeah.
still room to pass on the right-of-way. There is no sidewalk on that side. Sidewalk's across the street.
It-
But there's plenty of room on the right-of-way to get by.
for two cars, actually, you could probably fit two cars on the right side of the house.
Would it be your
Yeah.
intent to use, do you have two cars?
One.
You only have one car? Okay, but it would be for perpetuity.
Yeah,
When a visitor comes to you, would you be able to, when visitors come to you, if a friend came to your house, would he or she be able to park, in your opinion, one to the side of the house and one in front of your office, which is used to be the garage?
They can also park.
Yeah, when I drove by the other day, there were two cars to the right of the garage. That were parked. Yeah. Yeah.
so, and then the other, just to press on this, just to be clear, there is parking on this street, not immediately in front of the house, as far as I know, because you're right on that curve, but a little bit further to the north, you can park, and then I believe you can park actually across the street, maybe also a little further to the north, but not by too much. Yeah, yeah, and then that's where our infamous lot is, which we'll probably be hearing from soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else want to be heard on this application?
I think the Corrales family
Yes.
tried to add on to this, or they were exploring it, I know. They were doing a floor up, right?
Yeah.
Which did get approved. Oh, did it?
Eventually did get approved, yes.
It did, okay.
She was so happy with the approval, she moved.
Lucky you.
Okay, so, motion to close, Peter?
Yeah, move to close.
Second. Motion to approve the application as written?
Second?
Good luck to you.
Permit, yeah.
Now you can get a
Now
permit to
I'll-
do it.
I'll send you an email about what you need to do next for the permit.
Okay, good luck. The next application is 85 Myrtle, and this is an application to make legal a portion of the make a legal building lot out of a portion of the lot which faces Lafergie Avenue, and it is short of the mandated frontage by about 25 feet. Is that right, Pat?
Actually,
Should be 100 and it's around 75?
yeah, it's, I think it's supposed to be more than 100. I think the required width of the lot is 125, and we have, at the plane where the house would be, we've got a little bit over 75, we're close to 80, maybe even 90 at that point.
Okay.
The thing that's unusual, and Ed, any trick to make this pop on?
Are you plugged into your own?
Might plug in, yeah.
You don't mind,
No, that's,
here's an input, probably some.
if you're still connected to that same table,
Which lot doesn't have frontage? The existing one doesn't have frontage?
No.
Oh, this one doesn't have frontage because it actually doesn't come all the way to Lebanon.
It does go to Lafergie. But this is not 125 feet. And so this is carving off a lot from the much larger property, which is the big house.
As is, it's a huge, very long, very
Yeah.
steep driveway leading up to the property.
Yeah. Is this a typo though? Less than 25 feet of frontage on a street?
There you go.
That's where I was mistaken. That's where I was mistaken, because I read 25 and I looked at it, it was over 50 feet. So I was having a,
Yeah, that's not right.
the provision from the code on frontage says street frontage. No building shall be erected within the village on a parcel of land having less than 25 feet of frontage on a street suitably improved to the satisfaction of the planning board. But it looks like they have 50 feet of frontage. I must be
Yeah.
missing something.
he has frontage for the whole lot that's there now.
On Lafergie.
But once he subdivides, he will not have frontage on a village street for the existing one.
For the existing lot, okay.
Right.
So how does, but they get in through this little passageway, through this
They
little
do.
house
They,
path.
they come in through a private drive that's shared by 7 or 8.
Private road.
So you can come in by
Oh.
code on a shared road that's serving no more than 2 or 3, I think the
No,
code
actually,
was.
there's no specific limit on it, you're just.
No,
not
there
allowed to
is,
have
I
more-
read it. So it's non-conforming.
You're not allowed to have more than one lot that is not.
Additional lot.
Just one, not 2 or 3, so you could have 2, you could have 3, you could have 7, but only one cannot have frontage on the street.
And they're coming in off of
No,
Lafergie.
that's not the way it's written.
They enter off of this little,
Yes.
yeah, and they got this little.
So the issue is, so I'm confused. Is the issue is not with the lot, not with the lot you're carving off? The issue is with the existing house?
He's,
Okay, no, here, let me.
once he subdivides, he creates a nonconformity on the existing house.
We've got like 700.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because right now, it's conforming, even though he doesn't use the frontage on Lafergie for his driveway.
Wait, that house,
Now, this was worth coming
that
back for.
house doesn't,
Okay.
I pass that house all the time. I always assumed that the house was entered off of Lafergie.
No,
And that
no.
long driveway that is
There
there.
is no possible way
No.
to enter off the Virgin.
I
No.
never tried to enter into your house,
Well,
but I always
anything's
saw the
possible.
Lafergie
No,
entrance.
you enter off Myrtle.
It's
Those-
very
those
long lot
gates.
with the pool and the yard and the, yeah, yeah.
You'd have to regrade, you'd have to sneak around.
You can, just to be clear, you can enter off Lafergie, but not with the configuration of
Only
your
on
house
foot.
and your yard and the retain.
Right,
You
you have
barely get to the house.
you have
So
to
steep.
change the level.
Okay,
all the way
right.
up there and
Is it-
Retaining walls, grading.
I always
It's
used to
not too
say,
steep for the new house.
I used to always say, glad I don't live up that hill because it'd be hard in the snow.
Yeah, right.
You can click on PowerPoint. I've got a very nice presentation. Yeah, Rick actually answers many of the questions, but
You do this all the time.
I do, I just did it Thursday night, it worked fine.
Yeah, it's a climb of like 14 feet
Yeah.
probably.
Not easy.
It's on a private road. So
Here.
That's Myrtle, this is the end of Myrtle.
But that's not really in front of us.
You're right, it's not, you're right. Whether that's
I think
too
that's- I
steep
think-
or not, that's a
I think that's for the,
planning board
that's a planning board issue.
Yeah, if I can kind
Yeah.
of try and work it the old-fashioned
That's
way,
the end of,
without,
They have 30,000
benefit of slide.
and they need 20. And Pat was asked to do the calculation.
Right, we
Oh,
have,
you-
basically, there's two components to this application. One has to do with what would be the deficiency of the existing, of the proposed lot, which has to do with two things, actually. One is the width of the lot, and the second is with the fact that we can't accommodate the rectangle. You're supposed to be able to put a rectangle on the property that has 80% of the required lot area within a rectangle that is no dimension smaller than 80% of the required lot width. So because of the configuration of the lot, there's just no way to do that. At the same time, we have a 30,000 square foot lot in a zoning district that requires 20,000. And with the steep slopes calculations, we end up with a net of 25,107.
Okay.
So we're compliant with that. We also, while we have where the house is, we're limited in the width to approximately maybe 90 feet at that point. Once we turn this corner, we've actually got 240 feet of width. So it's a generous piece of property with a nice yard. We've taken a lot of concern and care with the way we've positioned the house, which I realize is more planning board than you, but the idea is to get the house back up. It's actually behind the two houses
On either side.
sides. And the design of the
You can,
house-
you can get there
Yeah.
with legal grade on the driveway?
Legal grade on the
Okay.
driveway, coming in with a garage under the house,
Mhm.
and then a house that would actually step up the hillside.
Got it. Yeah.
So, you know, it has a lot of specific requirements of how that works, but that can be made to be compliant. And important, I thought, was the fact that the house that we're showing, which is about a 3,500 square foot, 4,000 square foot house, it can be built, we exceed, at least match or exceed the required side yards. So even though we don't have the 125 feet, you can put a good-sized house on this and still have the amount of setback you require to the property lines, with a very generous front yard setback and a significant setback in the back that exceeds. Yeah. You think you got it? Oh. So then, that's usually down at the bottom, a little thing that Nick is up.
That's a spectacular house. You should look at it on Zillow or one of the Realtor places. Yeah, you'll never see a house like this again.
It worked.
There we go.
So, let me catch up so I don't go through repeating it, I won't have to talk as much about some of it. So that's the first part, is that the lot that would be created has those two deficiencies that would require variances. The third issue, which is the one that Ed was talking about, which I think is perhaps will turn out to be the more significant, is the fact that this house has its access by a private,
Private road, yeah.
driveway. And that was created, a long time ago. I actually have not been able to find the actual subdivision of it, but I found a lot of other information. I was going through, it's great, you can go on the line now, you can look at things from the 1930s and 1940s. This is the property that, the DeRuzzo's own. This is where it fronts down to Lafergie. This is the driveway that comes in, and that driveway serves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 houses in addition to the main, what used to be the primary house for this. In fact, one of the things we did, I'll go over, this is just showing the survey of the property, how it sets back. This is the parcel to the side. This is a more updated survey, and this is the drawing that I was just showing you before. The main house is up here. This is Lafergie, where the driveway's coming in off of that, the slopes that all work to it.
Yes.
So we grouped that out. Rakesh is the surveyor, and we'll be able to submit that to the village. And then this is just a comparison. This is where I put the numbers. So this is just showing how we're adjusting to have A and B instead of just A. And here's where we get to kind of where I think it starts to be kind of interesting. From what we found, it looks like this red line used to be the property. And there used to be a house here and a house here that were actually like a caretaker's cottage and something else. Because these, yeah, those are still there, and they date back to like 1910. You know, this house, do you know when this house actually was built? I'm guessing. Yeah. So it was like this was built, these two were there, and this was probably the driveway that came in to that at some point, which we're guessing is in the 50s. Late 50s, these other lots were created. Now, all of these lots, in fact, every single one of these lots, has, even this one, which is back in here, it has a flag out to Myrtle. So all of the parcels, right now, with the exception of this one, if Lafergie connection disappeared, they all have that connection, which would mean that this would be the only house at that point that would be sharing the driveway, which is the significance, I think, of one other being permitted to do, and I'll show you that section in the code. It also is worth noting that from this point to this point, this house owns the road. So
Right.
that's fully on its property. This property owns from there to there, and this property owns from there to the street. So it's kind of a,
Pat, the lot that is the furthest in,
this one,
yes.
this one.
How does that flag out to Myrtle?
It goes right down here.
Same private road.
They use the private road, but they own a frontage coming down to,
So they own on the other side of the driveway?
right, they own.
Got it.
straight-
Okay.
In fact, they own, this house owns the street here, and this house has an easement to use it. And in Dobbs, that's actually not that unusual
Right.
condition, as I'll show you in a sec. This I just found was curious, when we searched for the house, all of these lots come up as 85 Myrtle. I think they.
As they're turned over, they're being given proper addresses.
Right. But what's interesting is that I think they actually, whoever did the subdivision, he had kind of a curious approach to it. The houses that are on the street go 35, 45, 55, 65, 75, 85, 95. So they're all, it was like, I gotta give numbers to the house, so I'll just go by 10. So it suggests to me that was all one subdivision done by the owner of the house, he made that, created that. So here's that same driveway, it would still serve this. This would be the portion of the site that we would be creating as a separate lot with its frontage on the Fergie. And then just some shots to kind of give you a sense of what that really looks like. These are the gates, this is why I assume this used to be the main entrance
Right.
for the house, because if you look at this brick, it actually.
It's the same as the,
has brick on house.
yeah.
And that's private road.
Yeah, so here you drive, this is a 20-foot wide road, you know, varies a little bit, but generally it's 20 feet. This is the fence in front of the DeRusso's house. This is their home, that's the main part of it. This is their garage and family entrance, which is actually quite cool. And this is back looking down the slope of the driveway. This is looking the other way in front of the house. And then these are just, this is the one that looks like it probably was something, an out parcel or.
Carriage house.
Yeah,
Mhm.
originally the
Yeah.
carriage house for that. So my logic is.
And that's the furthest house.
Yeah.
Right.
And they have frontage down to Myrtle, but they use, they use
Sure.
the driveway. And then these houses all appear to have been built around 1961. In fact, almost all of them have that date. There was one that was different, it had 1966. This is the house across the street. It always baffles me when I see a house like the DeRusso's house, and somebody says, oh, I'm gonna build a house too. I mean, I guess if I was out in Garden City, but looking across the street, it just seems like it would be such a hit to do something slightly different. So, these are the other houses you get down close to the entrance. This house is also an older house, so I think this may have been like a gatehouse or something like that for it, because you can tell this used to have to be a much simpler home that they put basically starting right about where this tree is, going to the right. And this is the house on the other side. Actually, I think I have it backwards. This is the house to the left.
That's the left edge.
Right, so this one is the house to the right, so the lot is over on this side. This is the house to the left, the lot is over on this side, and then this is.
That's the lot.
The site. And this first section is relatively daunting in terms of, it's a fairly, it's probably around a 20% slope. When you get up to here though, which is about where you're even with the other two houses, it levels off fairly nicely. So the main thing would be excavating through here, kind of curving that up so you can lengthen the drive to get up to it. And then, as I said, where the other houses kind of have their driveways alongside, this one would be underneath. This is just another site, the property line's right about there. So it's, I don't think it's that challenging. Now, as I was saying a minute ago, this is not that unusual in Dobbs. There were actually a number of places where this kind of same setup was done. So this is Clinton Avenue. This is where you come in, and then you come off, this is the Cunio's house. And there are a number of lots in here
Yes.
which don't have frontage on a street, which were not from way back when. They were actually, two of these were actually created in the last 20 years, maybe 30 years. And Cunio's lot used to own property out to this street. But in, I think it was 2009, the village actually approved a re-subdivision of that property so that they would actually eliminate that connection. So Cunio had a access to the street, but if I can get the right page, I'll find the date. In March 5th, 2009, the re-subdivision with the house that is this property, and then I guess this person's property. These two parcels were owned by Cunio, and they came out this way. And what happened is these parcels this one went with this house, and a portion of this one went with that house. I think they divided the line there. So there was, they eliminated this condition much the same way that we would be doing so if we eliminated the Lafergie connection. If the Lafergie connection was one that one could imagine actually making have access, I would look differently at it, but I don't think it would be practical, even if you had to say I'm going to make that be my driveway to the house.
Right.
The other example I think is pretty interesting is Cricket Lane, because Cricket Lane is a private lane. The house is actually owned in the middle of the street, and you've got some very, very nice, large parcels. All of these are basically making use of a private road. So I think that's the precedent in the village, and this, again, this also does not date way back when. This is Paul Stern's house, and this is Rob Barron's house. And I think that was done in the 80s. So this, with our new code and everything in place, there was this acknowledgement that, it's a piece of property, somebody
Right.
should be able to develop and use it. There is a weird condition in our zoning which pertains to exactly this. It's in the frontage section, and what it talks about is any lot that was created before 1987 is allowed. There is this thing where one lot can make use of someone else's driveway for their access. And I think that's what's important here, because with the way we're looking at this one, where we've got, let's see if I get back to one of these, the fact that all of these own that frontage, this is that one then. And it seems kind of poetic that it would be the original house that, kind of gave birth to all these different lots.
Patty,
So,
are
yeah,
there any
right.
approvals needed by the other users of this private road to permit another entity to take advantage of that same private road?
We're not doing
issue?
that. We're not, this lot, if we create this lot, their access is off of Lafergie. They would not be using the driveway. So the same number of houses that currently uses the driveway is using the driveway.
Okay.
no change. If the fire department and the ambulance has to come to any of those houses, they're doing exactly what they would do now. It's just there'll be another house down here that would be calling, and they, of course, are fronting on a legal,
And
Lafergie, which is.
how would the fire department or ambulance access this new house?
From Lafergie.
Lafergie.
And that Lafergie Road
Yeah.
Yeah.
is, if it's the one I think it is, the one I thought when I looked at the house from the Myrtle side and walked around, it's a fairly steep incline to access that road.
No, you were on Myrtle. You were not on the driveway.
Yeah.
You were on Myrtle.
It's
Lafergie is
it's
pretty flat.
steep on Lafergie, too. To
It's
get
steep
up
on
to
Lafergie.
that property, he's gonna have to build some serious retaining
Oh,
walls.
coming, not on Lafergie, but coming the driveway
Right.
off.
Yes.
of
Yeah.
Lafergie.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Driveway off of
Right.
Lafergie
Driveway,
onto
Yeah.
that
I think
hill.
we're showing an 8% driveway coming up to that point, so it's, it's the village recently has done some 15%.
Right.
So.
But our engineers would recommend no more than 14, 15 for the
Right.
driveway, and then code says no more than 5 for parking area.
Right.
So you can be,
But there's no change in any of that being proposed.
No
And,
change.
and the village's emergency vehicles have no issue with making that turn off of Lafergie onto that road, given the slope of that road,
Well,
you
you're
mean
talking
the driveway.
the driveway, yep.
Yeah.
our new driveway would be the piece of the slope. Lafergie,
Lafergie's a flat street,
The fire,
but the
Yeah.
one driveway off of Lafergie is, I think the one you're talking about, is a fairly steep, there's a big tree, and then there's the driveway.
right,
And that's a fairly steep driveway leading up that approach. And I just wanted to ask whether, and it's not a very simple road to access. I just wanted to
There
ask
was-
Right. The
whether
fire
there's any
de-
issues with our
the
emergency
fire
vehicles.
department would be asked to comment at planning board.
right.
But typically, they don't typically go into people's driveways unless the house is set so far back
Which that house would be.
that they have to. I don't know if he's gonna set it on the portion closer to the street or the L around the other side. Where is
Well,
it?
we're like probably a little bit closer to the street than the middle of the lot. If you hit the real middle, say between there and there, would probably be right about
Right.
there.
Yeah.
We are setting this back further. If you picture this is the backyard line, front yard line of the house to the left, to the south. Their entire house fits up in here. We're about even with the back of their house.
Typically, the truck stays out and connects to the fire hydrant, and they drag hose from the truck to the house. So they
And-
don't usually go in the driveway.
And the other thing that we've done here is we've kept this relatively flat. So when you're coming off of Lafergie, you've got, actually more importantly, when you're coming down the driveway and you're gonna pull out onto Lafergie, you're not coming down at a steep angle. It's not like the houses on Whitefield, where it's like, you just picture if it was an icy day, you
Right.
just slide right out. So your only real section that's relatively steep is going from about here to about there. And in that distance, you're going 8 feet. Once you get up here, though, this whole area in front of the driveway in front of the garage is at about 3%.
Yeah, I don't have really any concerns from a site plan perspective on the Myrtle side and on the flat side and that entry. It was, the concern I have is simply the part that goes from the house down the slope to the flat area of Lafergie, because it's got,
Right here.
it's got a bend, it's got a, and the angle, and I just was wondering whether if that's the access to that house, whether the emergency vehicles would be able to easily get up and down. And I guess the other concern I would have on, just simply staying with that related issue, is the runoff.
Right now, you've got the worst condition, which is you've got runoff that's uncontrolled, coming down a fairly
Yep.
steep slope. I am sure, because I know George Palmer quite well, we would be under a lot of requirements with this to solve all the drainage problems, so that all of the water that's currently sheeting down this hillside is being interrupted. Even to the point where I could see him saying that at the bottom of the driveway, he wants us to have something that catches water and takes it into something alongside that, so it doesn't spill out into the street and freeze and
Because I
everything.
know we've heard over the years about, from people who live on that section of Lafergie, problems with the runoff down the hill that that floods their basements, and they've been building French drains and stuff to protect their basement areas. And to me, if you add more, I mean, there's a potential, if you add more impervious surface, that you can exacerbate that problem. Good engineering could prevent it, but
But also, I think what you're talking about is further down, I don't know if I have anything that shows it.
Yeah, further down on the other side of the street, they've got huge rock
Right.
in their backyard that just, you know, all the runoff goes into their basement. Yeah,
Coming down from my
Yeah.
property to the Virgin.
Right. This is where the hill really is. It's actually on the other side of Myrtle. This section from Myrtle, Lafergie along here, this is
that's
all
pretty flat.
pretty flat. It's where this water comes down from these properties, which are just sheeting into the street. And then that comes down into, like where Virginia cuts in, and where at some point the village thought it was a good idea to allow people to build houses. Basically, in what was really swamp is kind of a mean word.
Wetlands?
Wetlands, sounds very.
That's a less negotiable word, I think.
So,
You might want to refrain from that.
my expectation is that we would be under every obligation to capture all the water and control it. And I guess the part of it that's probably a little bit harder to understand from this is when we're here in front of this house, the grade is even with the first floor. So we've cut down to the basement level. So we've eliminated about 10 feet of when you're standing down here on the street and looking at where the front of that house would be. So eliminating that 10 feet has been what makes this pitch be able to be at like an 8, maybe a little section in here, depends on which side of the driveway you're on. On this side, you'd be at about a 10% slope.
But let me just back up for the purposes of our vote tonight. We're not talking about this lot. We're talking only about the frontage on the big lot, given the way the notice is written.
Okay.
Right, because I don't think you completed and
The-
given this much information on the new lot.
Well,
On
we
your
submitted
original
we submitted
submission.
these drawings.
What's that?
We submitted all of these drawings. In
I didn't
December.
see that drawing.
Okay. Well, we want to get all of the variances. So if we have to renotice for that for the next meeting, I was actually.
I think we can go ahead with the variance that was noticed. We just can't go ahead with voting on anything for the spun-off lot,
Okay,
because that's not on the notice.
okay.
And that's actually been my concern, not the issue that's noticed.
Right.
This was notice to the neighbors?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
we sent a letter,
And they've got to sign up.
yeah, the way that it's done now, and I've been admonished that I have to do it the way everyone else does it, 'cause I was told that if I did it my way, we weren't gonna be sending a letter anymore.
We don't do it your way.
I know, there's a form now. Well, I used to write a little bit of a book that I would send everybody, which would explain why this was such a good idea.
That's why nobody read it.
That was like kind of cheating the system, so now. what we
Funny that it would be a good idea.
It's a form that you just check off who's you're gonna be appearing before.
Yeah.
And your description is very brief.
Yeah.
What we submitted though did include, the application did include the issue with the rectangle and the issue, with the lack of sufficient lot width. But if we have to come back and deal with those, that's fine.
Yeah, so I think it would be rectangle, lot width, and possibly frontage. I don't know the measurement on that.
Well, the frontage
The
we're fine
frontage
here.
is for.
The frontage is fine on Lafergie.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And it looked like from a previous drawing you have that the portion of the neighbor's driveway is encroaching over the property line, looked like at least to the north. Is that true?
It looks like, that might be the case. We need to get a surveyor to actually stake it out there to know that. That's one of the reasons that we've cheated. We've got a certain combine, there's a minimum setback and then there's a total. So what we've done is we've sheeted this towards the south. So that if, you know, if there's like a 6-foot encroachment here or something, and if Ron decided that was fine, you know, that it could be left, we wouldn't have a problem with, you know, that, building the house that close to where their driveway is now.
Okay. Yeah, it's a pretty substantial structure, it looks like that driveway is with retaining walls and what have you to make
Yeah.
it all work on that slope. And I don't know about to the south, is there, I couldn't.
Their driveway comes up, kind of from the other side and around, and I don't, you know, I don't think there's anything along this. I think this
It's
is
right
actually
there.
their driveway,
Yeah,
so I think that comes in and it's not encroaching on the board.
as long as they're fully noticed and they know this is all happening, then,
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting, it's like, there's sort of a discrepancy between how this item is described in the agenda and how the item is described in the notice. And really what we are talking about a lot is what's described in the agenda, the issue of creating a lot to be accessed from Fergie. But the notice is about, to create a building lot access on property located, and the issue is the street frontage, and having to do with the
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't proofread the agenda, but the notice is correct.
Right.
Right now, from what was submitted to me that I reviewed, it was a simple, just line making a subdivision. And I told Patty that he didn't have the frontage on the existing after he took that
Right,
portion
right.
away.
yeah.
So that's what I wrote a
Yeah.
denial on.
Sure.
So now
Yep.
this, maybe submitted to Pat for this meeting, has a lot more information on it.
Yeah.
But I didn't see that. So there's the 2 variances for the new lot that would be required also. So whether you want to vote on this one that was properly noticed
Yeah.
We could do that.
and give them
John, do you
the
think-
waive, the variance on the no frontage on the existing lot, the existing house.
Right. And then it'd come back
And then
on
we'd
the
come back
Fergie
next
issues.
month and renotice for the other 2 variances.
You good with that, John?
I missed what the other 2 variances are somewhere along the line.
He doesn't have the rectangle law, so.
He doesn't what, I'm sorry?
In any new lot, you have to be able to draw a rectangle that would take up a certain percentage
Oh, okay.
of the buildable area in that lot. He has sort of a elbow-shaped
Right, because it's a
lot,
strange
so-
shape.
I heard that.
So he
I
can't do
missed
that,
at
and
the
then
end
I
of
think
And then he doesn't have the
you're
width.
deficient on the widths,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lot, well,
but over on the
you
area,
can always decide that we're not deficient with it, because.
well,
we've
I gotta
got
take a look at it, Patty.
We got a 265-foot wide lot.
My eyes are
Yeah.
not that good anymore.
Yeah, it depends on how you measure the width. Is it the short width or the long width?
And I don't think we're allowed to take the average.
Well, I think since you have to come back for the rectangle anyway, you might as well come back for the width. And, you know, just dot i's
Well,
and cross t's. and-
He has to come back for both of those, because
Could
they
Yeah.
weren't
you
noticed.
include a site plan that would have the dimensions? I mean, I could go to that lot and I could walk it and see whether it's 25 feet or not. But I'm not positive that it is, frankly.
Which,
The street lot, as I read what's been noticed,
right,
and maybe I'm not reading it correctly, does the frontage on La Fergie have to be 25 feet?
No,
no,
no, it's the frontage on the private driveway
But
that's
No, any
that's
front-
up
any-
for vote.
Any lot created needs to have a minimum 25-foot frontage on a public street.
Right.
right.
He has more than that on the new lot he's creating. He had more than that on the whole parcel.
But that
And now he's
eliminated
splitting
his
it up.
access, his street access.
Right, but if this, in this scenario, does that 25 feet have to be off of Myrtle or off of La Fergie?
Doesn't, it has to be off a public street.
Either
So now, the portion he's taken that gives him his conforming frontage for the whole parcel as is, before it changes, is what he's taking off.
Right.
So then he's leaving the existing house as a parcel without any street frontage at all. It and all of those other 8 houses are accessed off a private driveway. So that is what is non-conforming with what he's leaving the
And he's not
existing house
making a
with.
case that since that house can be accessed off of La Fergie, that it's frontage is off of Laferge?
No,
There's no
No.
frontage.
he used to technically have that,
Not anymore.
or actually have that.
Yeah.
You know, now he has no access on a public street. You know, he's got, huge access on the private driveway.
Yeah.
Which is the way it is, I believe, with at least one other house off of this lane.
No, all
That's
the
where
He
houses-
said, no, all of
That's
them
where the
go
cricket
down to
house
either
doesn't-
All the
either
rest-
Lafergie or to,
All the rest
Myrtle.
have street frontage.
Oh, the
But
others
all the rest are also accessed by the
by the
private
private
drive.
driveway.
None of them access off of their flag,
Right.
you know, or their
I
street
don't mind,
frontage.
I think it's perfectly reasonable, and it's confusing as it is.
And we should see the easements that allow
Yeah,
these people to use that private driveway, right?
we've been trying to find that.
Oh, you can't find them.
No, I think actually, I mean, in the old days, things were often done less, what was before the new sheriff came to town.
But they're not even in their deeds.
We haven't found it. And the way they've done this.
Is that because they're not flag lots? You know, because I associate
They're
those
not flagged,
with
but
flags,
This,
you know,
right
the
now,
easements.
Ron owns this section of the road. And our assumption is that this house, and this house have an easement giving them right to drive across
Right.
Ron's property to get out to Myrtle. This house here owns the road, so not only do these three have to go across Ron's, actually it's four, this one too. But now, this one have to go across this guy's yard. And then everybody has to go across that guy's yard. So my guess is, certainly in this day and age, there would be a recorded easement, and probably what they would have done is they wouldn't have it where each person owns the whole road. They would have it where the road is held in common,
Right.
and everyone has a right to the driveway, and it would be a road easement where they would all also share in the cost of maintaining it, plowing it, and all that. When I was researching some of this stuff, going back and you'd find something about subdivisions in the 1930s, what you would, it would be a paragraph. So-and-so appeared, made a presentation, he wants to divide his property into 10 lots. Everybody thought it sounds fine, and they gave him approval. So I think we have higher standards these days than back then. So this may have been right in that kind of transition, like late 50s, early 60s. The owner of this house decides he wants to create these lots. He comes to the board, he comes to the village, he gets his approvals, and it looks like no one made enough of a deal that the easement is something that's in all of the documents. It could certainly exist, and I don't know if the village,
I think we need to find that before we vote on this,
yeah. Before you vote on it.
even the one that was noticed.
Okay,
Because if that first lot owns that portion of the road, they could build a wall across it tomorrow.
Well, actually, you wouldn't be allowed to do that, because there is, I think, I don't know if any of your.
Well, we're
you're
gonna
not
be sitting in court for a while.
It's been used for a long time, it is the road that people use. No one would be able to close that off. Even if they laid down on it when a cement truck was coming, they wouldn't be able to stop.
That's not a precedent.
they've actually done that on Cricket Lane many, many times.
We're having, Ed and I are having our own private joke here.
They could
That's
use
been-
asphalt truck on Cricket Lane.
Yeah,
Okay, so we'll carry everything over till next time,
okay.
okay?
But, I mean, it sounds like you feel, I mean, we also don't want to be wasting Ron's time, but it
Right.
sounds like if we can solve these things and make it clear, the presentation is not like, crazy.
Correct.
Good. Thank you, sir.
That's my correct, anyway. I only speak for me. Okay,
I still have
move to close?
close. Close.